Jeff's Superscript is brought to you by Black Cat Comics and Collectibles, in my opinion, the best comic shop and clubhouse on the internet. Follow them at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram and join their claim sales on Tuesdays for new books and Fridays for back issues. And don't forget to ask about joining their Stray Cats Club for special perks.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either February 23rd or 24th, 2021. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Now, as always, I start this video off by talking about last week's pick. And last week's pick was King in Black number 4. Yeah, as usual, is becoming very much too usual in these videos. I haven't picked up my comic books yet from this week. So I do not have anything to say about that book yet because I haven't read it. Probably what I'm going to start doing is I'll probably go back 2 weeks to talk about my pick from 2 weeks ago, just so I have a chance to actually pick up my books and read them. Speaking of my pick from 2 weeks ago, that was Future State Teen Titans number 2. I actually found a copy of the A cover at a comic book shop in my area. I was really surprised that didn't sell out everywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere else, and I just happened to find it on the shelf at one of my local comic shops. And then I went ahead and I went on eBay and I bought 2 copies of the B cover, which I actually got a pretty decent price for. That also surprised me. I thought that book was going to be at least a $10 book out the gate, being that it is the first full appearance of Red X and also has that great Red X cover. Maybe my spec and thoughts on that book having value long term is not really legitimate. Maybe everybody's going to go to whoever they think is the actual person behind the face of Red X for their spec. So, I don't know. I'm covered as far as I'm concerned, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. Granted, I didn't read the book, but it was mostly a spec pick anyways. But now I've got my hands on it, and I can file it away in the PC and hope for the best for a day to come in the future. All right, let's focus on the week's books coming up this week. And first, let's talk about my cover pick. And my cover pick this week is Batman Black and White number 3, this cover from Joshua Middleton. We have talked about Joshua Middleton several times in these videos, mostly as it pertained to the Wonder Woman covers that he was doing that were so excellent, week after week after week. This Batman cover is also very excellent. There's something about it that I just like a lot. I like the angle. I like artists who render proportions in a true-to-life fashion, but that their art is also representational, if that made any sense at all. And so for some reason, Batman looks like a real guy coming down on me, but it's also so amazingly artistically rendered with kind of the fog at the top of the buildings and the lighting in his cape, and just like, he looks like, I'm going to put it this way, he looks menacing and beautiful at the same time. And I just like it a lot. And I'm becoming a big fan of Joshua Middleton, and this cover is no exception, which is why I made it my cover pick for this week. All right, let's move forward, and let's start taking a look at the books that come out this week. So as usual, as I've started to do now, is I'm using League of Comic Geeks as my resource for these books. League of Comic Geeks lists their books in order from the most pulled book to the least pulled book. This is by people that are using League of Comic Geeks like myself to manage their pulls. I will be presenting this list from the book that has the least amount of pulls on League of Comic Geeks, thereby kind of the least amount of popularity, to the highest amount of pulls, or the highest amount of popularity. Let's go ahead and jump right in with the first book, which is called Chasing the Dragon, number 1 from Heavy Metal Comics. The description reads, in Chasing the Dragon, New York Times bestselling writer Denton J. Tipton and acclaimed painter Menton III explore a dark fantasy world ravaged by the rampant abuse of a drug made from the blood of dragons. When 2 young slaves discover a terrible secret that could change the course of the world, will a meek alchemist's apprentice and a drug-addled concubine survive long outside their cages? For fans of Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. I mean, great Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad is two of my favorites. So I'm interested in that. I also like fantasy, and it sounds like it could be cool and dramatic and interesting. I don't know. This might be one, if you see it on the shelf, you pop open and you might consider giving it a shot this week. The next book I'm going to mention to you is The Moon Maid, The Three Keys, #1. This is from American Mythology. Now, the description is really, really long, but the first sentence basically says, Edgar Rice Burroughs' fantastic sci-fi adventure of the world inside our hollow moon explodes in an exciting new direction in this tale of an all-new, all-different Moon Maid. Could be an interesting story. It seems kind of not very interesting to me. Maybe you know more about this character, and maybe you know more about Edgar Rice Burroughs. So this might be a character and a story that you'll be interested in because of those reasons. Me, when I read the full description, it didn't really, I wasn't like, ooh, I can't wait to check that out. I was much more interested in a book like Chasing the Dragon, the first one that I mentioned, than this second one. But if you want to learn more about it, go on to Previews World and look at the books coming out next week and read the full description and see if maybe it's something you might be interested in checking out. The next one I want to mention to you is The Amazing Batvark, #1 from Aardvark Vanheim. Now, I'm not going to read the description of this one either, but I got to say, these kind of Aardvark Vanheim books have been kind of cool and kind of interesting. I haven't ever picked one up and read it, but every time I see one, I'm like, ooh, what's this? What's going on here? What are they doing here? And here what they're doing is pretty cool with at least this cover image. That's kind of a mashup of The Amazing Spider-Man and Batman done in the style of an Amazing Spider-Man 50 kind of homage. I think that this might be worth picking up just on cover value, or the cover, the cover homage being worth it, I don't know if this book will increase in value, but if you're a big Amazing Spider-Man fan, or, maybe you own a copy of Amazing Spider-Man #50, this might be one you might want to have in your collection. And like I said, the concepts and the stuff that they've been doing in these books have always been kind of fun and interesting, so it might be worth checking out in that regard as well. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Maiden, #1 from Heavy Metal Comics. The description says, a young woman has forfeited her soul to a supernatural force of vengeance, never to be redeemed. Devoted to annihilation as completely as her servant, the inscrutable and frightening hag is devoted to her. Haunting tales of unrelenting, unrepentant revenge, an epic mythos that spans time, worlds, and genre, the horrifyingly tragic curse of the Maiden is written in the blood of many. Maiden is the boogeyman of a new generation. All right, kind of maybe like a creepy fantasy, almost feels like a fairy tale, like a grim fairy tale, kind of dark fairy tale kind of thing. Might be something worth checking out. I don't know. I'm intrigued. The next book I'm going to mention to you is By the Horns, #1 by Scout Comics. It says, Elodie hates unicorns. For nearly a year, she dedicated her life to tracking down and killing them all for trampling her husband, Shintaro. Now exiled from her farming village of Wayfarer for selfishly neglecting her duties, Elodie and her half-wolf, half-deer companion, Sajan, searched the continent for Soloths, very weird names, for clues to the whereabouts of unicorns. When they discover a lead in the port city of Lycus, their revenge mission suddenly takes a dangerous turn. Now, at first I heard this and I thought, they're killing unicorns? Those beautiful horses with the horns coming out of their head? That is unacceptable. They make rainbows come out behind them as they fly through the air. That's not cool. But no, I looked more carefully at the cover here, and it looks like they're monsters that just happen to have single horns, thereby being known as unicorns. They tricked me there at first. So this might be a cool kind of story of an adventurer that's looking to revenge the death of her husband and going through and slaying a bunch of beasts in this mythical world. Could be fun, could be interesting, could be something worth checking out. This next one I want to mention to you is called Nuclear Family #1 from Aftershock Comics. It says America, 1957. Elvis dominates the airwaves and apple pie is served after every meal. But with the dark cloud of nuclear holocaust looming, Korean War vet Tim McLean's major concern is taking care of his family in the atomic age. When the first bomb does drop on an unsuspecting Midwest city, Tim and his family find themselves plunged into a strange new world where what's left of the United States has gone underground while continuing to wage war on Russia with unthinkable tactics. Based on Philip K. Dick's short story Breakfast at Twilight, Nuclear Family is written by Stephanie Phillips and illustrated by Tony Shasteen. It's a Cold War era science fiction at its most timely and terrifying. I don't know how it's timely, but it could be very terrifying. I also don't know how this story isn't just about a bunch of people living underground. If there was a nuclear war going on, yeah, you wouldn't want to be above ground. So, I don't know, this could be really cool and really interesting. It's kind of like a what if tale if we had gone into like full nuclear war mode back in the 50s. The cover is absolutely intriguing as well. So there's a lot of reasons why I think this book might be worth at least having on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is Blade Runner Origins #1 from Titan Books. It's set in 2009, 10 years before the events of the current Blade Runner 2019 comic. Origins is set to provide a unique insight into the overall Blade Runner universe. In Blade Runner Origins, a senior bioengineer for the Tyrell Corp is found hanging in her sealed laboratory, the victim of an apparent suicide. LAPD, then it goes on here. Actually gets cut off here on League of Comic Geeks. But that's enough for me to be like, I'm interested in this. If you're a fan of the Blade Runner universe, and I'm a small fan of the Blade Runner universe, but definitely a fan, what I actually want to know more about is what happened like before the events of 2019. They now have that current 2029 story. And although I think that could be interesting, I'm more interested in what got us to the point of the replicants and you know what the journey to that point was. And I think that this Origins story is one that could begin to shine a light on that aspect of the story, and that is something that I'm interested in. So I think that if you are a Blade Runner fan and a fan of the Blade Runner comic books, this is a must-have for you. The next one I want to mention to you is Stray Dogs, #1 from Image Comics. It says, Lady and the Tramp meets Silence of the Lambs. It's scary being the new dog. Sophie can't remember what happened. She doesn't know how she ended up in this house. She doesn't recognize any of these other dogs. She knows something terrible happened, but she just can't recall, wait, where's her lady? A 5-issue Don Bluth-style suspense thriller by My Little Pony comic artist Don Fleece and Trish Forstner. Stray Dogs is Lady and the Tramp meets Silence of the Lambs. Okay, so I like dogs a lot. I think they're awesome. And a story that's kind of like a where am I, what's going on, kind of creepy horror story told from the perspective of a dog is like both like fun and interesting to me, as it is kind of like I'm like, I don't know if I want to go there, and it sounds scary and nerve-wracking. But this is kind of a creative idea to tell this story from the perspective of this dog. And I mean, they've got this Silence of the Lambs kind of homage cover for the B cover. I mean, this sounds like it could be a really fun, I don't know. It sounds like this could be a fun read and really well done. So something you might want to consider checking out. The next book I want to mention to you is Post-Americana #3 from Image Comics. I mentioned this because this is a personal pick for me. I picked up Post-Americana #1 because I kind of thought, well, maybe this kind of has Walking Dead vibes to it and could be interesting and worth checking out as a #1. And I really like it. To me, it's like a campy Walking Dead. You know, it's like a Walking Dead that doesn't take itself too seriously and is partially on steroids. It's kind of like if Rick Remender had written The Walking Dead. It's fun and exciting and gross and over the top, and so far I'm really liking it. might be something that you consider going back and finding issues number 1 and 2 and continuing it with issue number 3 that comes out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is Two Moons, number 1. This is from Image Comics. It says Rumble and BPRD writer John Arcudi is back at Image with rising star Valerio Giangiordano for an all-new ongoing horror series. This issue starts the long journey of a young Pawnee man named Virgil Morris, aka Two Moons, fighting for the Union during the Civil War. When he is suddenly confronted with his shamanic roots, he discovers horrors far worse than combat as the ghosts of his past reveal the monstrous evil around him. Well, this could be interesting in a lot of different levels. You have a Pawnee main character, which is cool. You have a Civil War tale, which is kind of like some people are into kind of war stories, and this is going to fall into that. You have a period piece, and that we're talking about the Civil War, but we also have horrors and ghosts, no ghosts of the past, but monstrous evil, and it could be real, like as a horror series. It could be a very interesting and cool setting, and something that this kind of sends off a little bit of the radar of like, could this be a television show or a movie at some point in the future? It's moving that needle for me just a little bit, but it sounds like it could be a cool read in and of itself. Something you might want to consider checking out, just possibly. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Marvel's Voices Legacy number 1. This is from Marvel Comics. It says, celebrating Black History Month in mighty Marvel style. Black Panther, Storm, Blade, Falcon, Ironheart, Luke Cage, Spectrum, and so many more. Marvel's incredible legacy of Black heroes gets the star treatment in this action-packed special. New and established creators take on their favorite heroes in a dizzying array of stories delighted to inspire and uplift. The Marvel's Voices program is your number 1 stop for the world outside your window. Don't sleep on this one. First off, this cover's rad. I like this cover. I think it's very cool. Secondly, I'm going to say that I'm glad that they're doing things like this. I'm glad that they're taking, different, like, for example, black superheroes or superheroes that are non-white, for lack of a better way to put it, and shining a little bit more of a spotlight on them. Thinking back in my childhood, and the comic books and the characters that I read, a lot of them were just like white dudes and girls, and men and women, I should say. And I'm glad that, and there were some fantastic characters of color. And I'm glad that we're getting to a point where we're just shining a little bit of a brighter light on them, bringing them out from the background just a little bit more and giving them a little bit of special attention so that people have the opportunity to acknowledge just how great these characters are. So that hopefully creators, when they're creating new characters, will consider, more characters of color as they're creating their new characters. And that's already happening a lot. And I think that that's fantastic. And I'm glad that Marvel's doing this. But ultimately, what's most important is that the stories that they're telling in this book are good. That is what is most important. So I really hope that they're good, and it justifies, the spotlight and that they're putting on these characters. So this might be something you want to check out this week. And did I mention that I really like the cover? I really do. The next book I want to mention to you is The Scumbag, number 5, from Image Comics. I'm not going to read the description, but what I am going to say is this is once again a personal pick. For the longest time, I read issue number 1, and I didn't read 3 or 4 because I couldn't get my hands on issue number 2. I finally got my hands on issue number 2, and I sat down and I read issues 2, 3, and 4, and I smiled the entire time. The Scumbag is really, really good. This is from Rick Remender, who I mentioned previously in this video. I invoked his name at the very least. It's so much fun, and it's so exciting. It might have a little bit of a heavy-handed political leaning to it, and that's neither here nor there, meaning to say that I'm fine with it. But more than anything, the character of the Scumbag is so much fun and so entertaining, and the situation that he is in is so kind of just like cool and silly and ridiculous. I don't know. Like I said, I went through and I read all 3 issues, and I had a stupid little grin on my face the entire time because it was a really fun read. You might consider picking up the Scumbag starting now. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Generations Forged, #1 from DC Comics. It says, dispersed through time by the villainous Dominus, a ragtag team of generational heroes featuring 1939 Batman, Kamandi, Superboy, Steel, Starfire, Sinestro, Booster Gold, and Dr. Light must find a way to restore the timeline. And what they ultimately discover is something far, far greater. You'll have to read it to believe it, as time dies and generations rise. I like this because they took such a random group and put them together. And one fun thing that storytellers don't do often enough is you put random person A and random person B and you put them in a room, and what happens? That could be a lot of fun when done really, really well. So hopefully the writers of this book really kind of, put these people together and really kind of just let them play and let the what would happen kind of sort of. I think it could be a cool read and a fun read, especially for somebody who likes these characters, and also especially for somebody who has a deep appreciation of the history of the DC universe, something that might be worth checking out. This next book that I want to mention is Future State Superman House of L #1 from DC Comics. Yes, another Future State book. Centuries into the future, the bloodline of Kal-El, the hero we know as Clark Kent, continues. Meet a new generation of Kryptonian heroes as they stand against one of the greatest threats they've ever faced, a diabolical foe called the Red King. Get ready for the unexpected debut of the twins known as Rowan and Ronan Kent, descendants of Jonathan Kent. Rowan is the new Superman of Earth, while his sister is a Blue Lantern. Also on board, there are Therander Ban-El, whose mother was Themaranian, and other heroes, all led by the original Man of Steel himself. Plus, don't miss an appearance by the Black Racer. See how the future of the Superman family comes together in this wild extra-size special. Okay, so Superman is like the prototypical, I guess that's the right word, superhero. So you got to pay attention whenever there's going to be new first appearances in the Superman world. And it looks like that's what we're going to have here. Now, I know a lot of people's fandom of Superman is waning. I know definitely mine and lots of other people that I've talked to. But even that being still, that's still being true, you should pay attention and at least know about when we're going to have new Superman family characters come out, and that's happening here literally. So it might be something you consider checking out just on its spec alone, especially since something that I've mentioned in other videos is that it seems to me that the trend is that the younger generation isn't so interested in the superheroes that I might have grown up with. They want superheroes of their own, superheroes that are unique to them and their generation that they can call their own. This, I think, is a potential instance of that happening for a younger generation. And, it could potentially be that these younger Supermen, even though it happens in the future, could be, they go through a time hole and all of a sudden, woo, you're a Superman in modern stories, and now you're the next big thing, and then you're in a Superman family movie. I don't know. But it could be worth checking out because it is Superman, it is new appearances, and it is coming out this week. The next one I want to mention to you is something I mentioned earlier. It's Batman, Black and White, DC, from DC Comics. This is the third one of these. As I mentioned before, with these I think are really fantastic opportunities for writers and artists to showcase their talent using one of the most amazing and iconic characters ever, Batman. And that the value or the interest that you might have in this book is purely based off of who are the writers and who are the artists. So if you're interested in Tim Seeley, Nick Dragotta, Bengal, John Ridley, Bilquis Evely, Olivier Coipel, or Kelly Jones, if any of those names is like, ooh, you might want to consider Batman Black and White #3 coming out this week. I went ahead and looked at issue #4 coming out, and the name that interested me about that next one was Chip Zdarsky. So I might pick up issue #4 because I'm interested in Chip Zdarsky. But there's nobody here on this list of #3 that stands out to me. personally. So I probably won't be getting this one. But like I said, if one of them stands out to you, you should go pick it up. Now we're going to move on to one of our segments here, our special segments that we have here on Just One Book on the regular. And that special segment is Kate's Corner. Yes, Kate's Corner. And this week, Kate's Corner comes with one. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start off by mentioning a little bit of Donny Cates news. And that is, I just found out yesterday that there are going to be 3 new Spawn books coming out this summer. So in addition to the Spawn book that's already out, there are going to be 3 new ones for a total of 4, meaning there's going to be a Spawn book coming out every single week. One of these Spawn books is going to be written by Donny Cates. Now, as you all know, I'm a big Donny Cates fan, so I'm excited about Donny Cates working on anything. Personally, although I think Spawn is cool and I have no problems with Spawn, I'm not really especially a fan of Spawn. So I feel like I need to pick up his Spawn title because it's Donny Cates, but then I'm also like, yeah, but I'm not so interested in starting to collect Spawn, especially when it's one of 4 titles and they're all I believe they're all going to be kind of tied in together in their own way. We'll see what happens there. We'll go down that road when I need to. But I just wanted to start off with a little bit of news about Donny Cates and let you know he was going to be writing a Spawn title starting this summer. So we'll talk about that more in later videos. But for this week, we're talking about Donny Cates and his contribution to this week's list, which is with crossover number 4. It says, "Hey kids, time for a field trip. Journey to the strange land of magical Colorado as our intrepid team of heroes searches for a way to shatter the dome and expose the truth behind the event. Also, man, how about that last issue, right? Crazy?" Yeah, sure, it was crazy. I don't know. It was good. I like crossover. I think it's good. I like Donny Cates. I like crossover, as I mentioned, as a concept. I think it's playing out in a fun, exciting way. I think it has a ton of potential moving forward. There is a B cover that is interesting because I'm very interested in what's in the top secret section of this cover. So I'm actually going to be picking up the A cover because it's a Giant Size X-Men reference. It's about homage, and I'm a big Giant Size X-Men fan. I'm also going to be picking up that B cover because I'm interested in knowing what is so top secret on that cover, and is it a cover spec worth picking up? Not picking up the blank white cover, though. But like I said, I really like crossover. I really think it's a great story. I think Donny Cates is great. And it's not too late. I don't think it's doing so great on the secondary market. For me, right now, it's not necessarily about any spec value. It's about its value as a read, and it does have value as a read. So you can probably go back all the way to issue number 1 if you haven't been reading it and pick it up. For me, it's worth it. I like it. I'm excited to see what the future has for it. All right, well, that ends Kate's Corner. Now we're going to move on to another special section that we have in these videos on the regular. Yes, you guessed it. It's Tynan Time. Yes, welcome to Tynan Time. And today, it's Tynan Time. We're going to have 2 books that we're going to be talking about. First, we're going to be talking about The Department of Truth, number 6 from Image Comics. Here's the description. Acclaimed artist Elsa Charretier joins James Tynan IV and Department of Truth to uncover the deep tangled roots of the Department of Truth, roots that stretch as far back as the Middle Ages. What is the Inquisition? Who are the Illuminati? And what is the truth behind the phantom time hypothesis? Okay, so here's what's happening with this. We have the first story arc for the first 5 issues. 6 and 7, the main artist, Martin Simons, yeah, I always mispronounce his name, but I think I got it right there, Simons, is going to be taking a break for 2 issues. He'll be back for issue number 8. In the meantime, we still have James Tynan IV, but we have a guest artist. And they're going out of the main story that they've been telling us, and they're going back in time to give us a little bit more history on the Department of Truth. This is pretty cool and pretty interesting. I'm interested in more of the history, so I'm excited to check this out. Something I'm going to mention that if you are like a person who collects individual issues, but you buy things in trade, just so you know, issues 1 through 5 are going to be collected in trade, and then issues 8 through 12 will be collected in trade, and then 13 and 14 are going to be similar to 6 and 7 in that they're going to be kind of offshoots, and they're going to do that 2 or 3 times So what's going to happen is issues like 6 and 7 will not be collected in trade for a very long time. For, not until like after issues like whatever it's going to be, 19 and 20 or whatever, come out. So this is going to be your opportunity to get these stories. So even if you're collecting this book and you plan on reading it in trade, you might want to still collect these issues 6 and 7 in their floppy form, so you don't have to wait way too long to get a chance to read this. But I'm really excited. I love Department of Truth. I think it's really fantastic. I think it's a really great read. And if you haven't been reading it, you can still find issue number 1 for pretty cheap. I picked up an issue number 1 from a store the other day for like $12. Now, that's not cover price, but that's also not super expensive either. And I think that it's a book that will continue to see increased value. So I would definitely go back and pick up issues 1 through 5. But even if you think you missed the boat on that, pick up issue number 6 and start there. Don't be like me with Something is Killing the Children, where on Something is Killing the Children was at issue number 6. And I'm like, I'm interested in this book, but it's issue number 6. I already missed it. I'm just going to let it go. Man, that was a huge mistake. That was such a huge mistake. I should have been scooping up every single book starting at first chance I even thought about it, because all those books are now so super valuable. So I definitely recommend going back and picking up Department of Truth back issues ASAP, and definitely picking up issue number 6. But speaking of a book that I just mentioned, my book that I would pick this week if I could buy just one book is Something is Killing the Children, number 15. Now, I say that, hanging my head a little bit, because yes, I picked issue number 14, and no, I don't want to pick Something is Killing the Children every time a new Something is Killing the Children book comes out, although expect me to pick number 16 when that comes out, when it starts a new story arc. But I had to pick issue number 15 this week. It's the end of this Archer's Peak storyline. Now, I actually picked issue number 14 because I anticipated, like a month ago, I anticipated that this was going to be the big kind of climax of the Archer's Peak storyline. And although there were some really cool, interesting things that happened in issue 14, it was not the climax. It was not the big kind of like event of that whole story arc, which I thought would lead to issue 15 being kind of what they call the denouement, or the falling action, or well, thank you so much, we really appreciate your help, what are you going to do next? Well, I'm going to go do this, just kind of wrapping it up. It looks like what's going to end everything that is going to end the Archer's Peak storyline is going to happen in issue number 15. And for that reason, it's my pick. I'm the most excited about that book because I'm most interested in knowing how is all of this going to get wrapped up. I don't know how they're going to do it in the space of a normally sized comic book. I hope that it's not like, driving into a brick wall where all of a sudden it's like, wait, we're done? Wait, that's how we're finishing it? I hope that it ends up being an ending that is worthy of the amazing storytelling that James Tynion IV and Werther Dell'Edera have been telling with the first 14 issues. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because they've been doing a really, really good job. But like I said, I'm sorry to pick it again, but in a week where there was basically no other book that was jumping out at me being like, Jeff, I'm the spec pick, or, Jeff, I'm the coolest of the group, or, they all have different voices, that I had to pick a book, again, that spoke to me. What would I pick if I could buy just one book? And for me, because it's wrapping up the storyline and this 15 issue story arc from James Tynion IV of the Archer Peak storyline, that's why I had to pick Something is Killing the Children, number 15, to be my pick this week if I could buy just one book. All right, well, I guess oh, by the way, something else I'm going to mention is that issue number 16 is not coming out until May for Something is Killing the Children. So what they're doing is they're taking a little bit of a break for about 2 months, and then we will return with issue number 16, I believe it's in May, and it's going to be, I believe, going back in time and giving us a little bit of information about the origin of Erica Slaughter. So good news, we've got about 8 more of these videos before we're going to be talking, maybe even 12. Yeah, I didn't do the math, I don't know. But a good amount of these videos that we're going to do, not have to worry about me talking about something is killing the children again, at least for a little while. So as always, thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any thoughts, any comments, anything you want to share, let me know what books you're excited about. Let me know if you're excited about Something is Killing the Children 15, or if you're like, Jeff, get a life and get over yourself. If you haven't already, I recommend that you hit the subscribe button. Hi, it's my wife, just as I'm finishing. But anyways, go ahead and if you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button and make sure to hit the notification bell if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.